brilliant thing about Sonos is that
Is there a brilliant thing?
when I can hear my daughter blasting the basement TV, I can actually just go into this little doodad, turn
Oh,
on,
and
turn on.
come on, really? You can like turn it down?
You can turn it down. Well, it's hard to see, but there's a little
Yeah,
night.
no,
The night icon
Yep.
basically turns off the sub.
Yeah. So right. So it makes it less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that when she's watching some show about a dog becoming a guide dog, and she's very emotionally attached to this, and now wants our dog to become a guide dog, except our dog is the size of a hamster.
Your dog could be the guide dog for a midget or whatever, small person, whatever.
Just kicking it off with a bang. Anyways,
So here's a weird semi-related thing. Yesterday, my wife, like we do every day, we're sitting in the living room.
first off, I thought you said she left you yesterday. I was like, what?
Oh yeah, yeah, no big deal. 30 years, whatever. We had a good run. Yeah. So we're just watching, we're eating lunch, watching TV, and I can hear us. I have weird hearing. Like I can hear what sounds like the beat, the thumping beat of a song.
Mm-hmm.
And so I paused it. I was like, "Do you hear that?" And she's like, "Oh, maybe Kelly's taking a shower because this is what reminded me. She uses Sonos down in the basement." And I'm like, "No, it seems like it's coming from the back corner of this room, or and thus is probably outside,
Mm-hmm.
And she did hear it. She often doesn't hear these things I hear, and it's just like kind of a steady cadence, Walked outside, listened. I went upstairs. Maybe Mark was playing a game on his computer upstairs. I went to Kelly's not playing. No idea what it was. So last night we're eating dinner. Same thing. We're sitting in front of the TV, and 5 minutes in, and I'm like, what? I'm like, we got to figure out what that is, So I'm standing in the corner, right? Anyway, we'll go through the rigmarole. But I walk over to where the TV is on a stand. We have a Sonos soundbar, and I'm listening, and I can hear it. And you know what it was, Brad?
Was it the show you were watching?
No, that was one thing I actually, one of the many things I did was pause the TV, but you could still hear it when it was paused. On the floor next to the TV stand, because that's where the router is the NAS. And it was the hard drive of the NAS.
Oh.
Like it has literal hard drives. Now, at that time, no one was using the NAS. So I don't know if someone's stealing all my movies or what it is, but I literally went over to it because it's a little thing. It's like a WD, whatever, NAS. And I just, like you do with like a fan that's making a vibrating sound or whatever, I just rotated it like a quarter of an inch and it stopped. Like the drive was still going, but it wasn't subwoofing through the floor. It was like the weirdest. We've had this thing for years. It's never had. I don't know. Maybe a hard drive's gone bad. Yeah. No, I use it every day. I mean, I've accessed it since. Like it's fine. It could be one drive. Yeah, you're right. Maybe I should go look at it's one drive because it is doing mirroring. So, yeah, okay. Maybe I will look at the health of it. But anyway, it's weird,
Yeah, anyways, more important things. Microsoft did announce yesterday, and I'm trying to be optimistic. Trying, putting on my, this is going to be a good change.
Okay.
Microsoft is getting rid of rings and going to channels.
I'm going to ruin this for you.
Nope.
I am going to ruin it.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Trying to be optimistic.
Okay. Okay.
And they tell us, for real this time, that it's not focused on frequency. It's going to be on quality, and they're going to have, they're basically mirroring the Edge model or naming convention.
Yeah, but what are those things called in Edge? Are they channels?
Yeah, I think so, where they have Canary, Dev,
and they're
Beta,
called channels.
And then
like
production.
the stable channel. Okay. Yep.
And so that's what insiders are going to. Now there's going to be, it's only dev, beta, and release preview, and then release. There is no Canary. I think Canary is internal only, which I think is probably a good thing.
I'll make a point to that soon. But yeah, okay. But go on. I'm sorry. I didn't.
So this is going to be a good change. Good, positive.
Quality based. It sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's not just them just deleting a text field and renaming it, and then that's all that changes. But
that's how I'm going to ruin it. This change is a change in name only. They have literally not changed anything substantial. That quality-based schedule is exactly what's happening right now. That whatever the fast ring is called now is exactly the same. It is not tied to a specific Windows version. That is exactly the case now. The slow ring is tied to a specific Windows version. That's exactly the case now. There is one change, aside from the name. And I feel like a lot of people missed out on this. I wrote this in my own post, but if you read very carefully, you will note that the release preview channel, as it's now called, will actually be supported by Microsoft in corporations that choose to roll it out to a subset of the users so they can test a future version of Windows. So they're actually going to support it as if it were a shipping version of Windows, only for businesses. So that's the one change. That's it. Other than that, it's just a name change.
So that's somewhat decent, I guess, if you're doing that, but I don't know who is. But
we're going to refocus on quality, not on a specific version. Already doing that. That's been in place for 15 months. So not a change. But you mentioned Canary Ring. One thing, another little subtle line in there is these are the 3 channels we're going to have. I don't remember the names. Is it beta, release? I don't know what they're.
Yeah, it's dev, beta, release, and then whatever.
Okay, and they map to whatever rings, when it doesn't matter. They did leave open the possibility, they literally said this, that they would potentially add further channels in the future. And my speculation to that, and this is good news in the sense that I'm speculating, and if it's true, it's is that maybe that means they'll add a channel for Windows 10X.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, things happening in the Windows world, by the way. I only know this because I looked on LinkedIn. Is that our buddy Rolf, who is known for his Surface hardware designs.
Tell me he's leaving.
No. He's now also in charge of actually Windows design, too.
Oh.
Yeah. Logical, but
yeah.
Don't say Johnny. Don't say it.
I'm going to put it for you. That's what Johnny Ive did.
Yeah.
And by the way, I mean, the initial version of software that they did under Johnny Ive, which was iOS 7, was a little stark and a little too minimalistic, but they kind of, they shorted up. I mean, I think the iOS 3, whatever we're on now, design is fine. I mean, other than the baloney about icons and stuff. But yeah, I mean, skill in designing hardware doesn't always translate to skill in designing software. That said, this is that combination of hardware software thing, and I think it's more about that than him. Like Windows is a mess. We're going to fix the design. I mean, maybe they make big changes, but that is interesting. I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't necessarily translate to this is going to be successful.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you something. I never told you this privately, and I guess I'll say it publicly now. But I did. This, contrary to everything I've ever heard, but supporting what you just said, I've heard from a source that there were huge changes coming to Windows.
Yeah.
And that the next year is going to be really interesting. And my response to that is, okay, but I mean, there's no evidence of really major changes coming. And I was told, wait, because there are going to be major changes. And I wonder now if it's not tied to what you just said.
Yeah, tied with Ralph kind of moving in and then making.
And I think the whole get rid of Windows 10X as a standalone thing or as a stupid dual thing and maybe bringing it in-house a little bit more. That would be part of it. I mean, there's a lot of UX innovation that can occur.
Yeah.
But I've seen no evidence of anything. But this person is in the right place to know for sure. So
we will see. The thing is too, is you got to be careful on timelines because these things tend to take these things take time, right? You can't update Windows in a day.
Yeah, they apparently can't even update it well in 15 months. So, as any printer will tell you.
The other big thing coming out this morning is that the EU not finally, but formalized their antitrust complaints against Apple, which primarily revolve around, I believe, the App Store and them basically forcing people to go through that route and take 30% when Apple apps don't have to do that. And I believe their Apple Pay is in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're basically preventing app makers from even communicating to their users that there's another way to pay for something or there's some other place to go for content. Apple forces them not to have that language in there. I mean, that's an incredibly onerous term. And then their Apple Pay the Apple Pay thing is tied to there's the in-app payment system, which is what you're talking about, the 30% VIG that they get. But there's a separate investigation into Apple Pay, and one of the charges there is that Apple has a tap to pay thing that only works with Apple's stuff. Like you can't, as a third-party payment system, use tap to pay on Apple. And it's like, guys, like there's clearly different rules in the App Store for Apple than there are for other companies, especially when Apple competes with the app like Spotify or Amazon or, probably in this case, Stripe and payment systems are. So, PayPal, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, overdue. And Apple's already made these little steps. Apple could next week announce, they're not even sweeping changes, just the subtle changes. They won't even announce them on stage. I know they should do it on stage because developers would love this. Some changes that would mitigate these complaints pretty quickly. So, I mean, there's been years of abuse here, but this is that they're abusing their gatekeeper role, like they said. I can't wait for these changes.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how long that takes to either work its way through the courts or Apple to just make the changes that they know they need to make.
I bet they do. I don't think they'll go whole hog, but it wouldn't surprise me if I didn't hear that. Some subtle. They lower the 30% fee. They allow apps to communicate that you could do this somewhere else. And by the way, that's the consumer harm. I mean, one of the things they pointed out is almost universally, like when there is an alternate payment form available to consumers, it's cheaper than the thing going through Apple. And then that's the consumer harm angle. But obviously, they're also harming competitors too.
Especially we've talked about it before, like the Apple Music versus Spotify. Spotify's at a disadvantage only because it has to go through that app store, and that's a problem.
I think they made a typo in their announcement because they mentioned it was clearly Spot for a company's name, and it had to be Amazon. But a complaint they received from a company that has both ebooks and audiobooks. It was literally comma where there should have been a name, comma a company that produces ebooks and audiobooks. I was like, that's kind of interesting. But Amazon has been pretty public about that. You can't on an iOS or iPadOS device go into the Audible app, go into the Kindle app, and then go to the store and buy stuff. You can't. Yeah, Amazon restricts that because they would have to give 30% of those purchases to Apple, and it would destroy the tiny
There'd be no
sliver.
margin. There'd be nothing. So, it'll be months, weeks, years before that's probably fully vetted out, but.
The EU moves slowly. I mean, I think it's fair to say. But like I said, I really think Apple and everyone will applaud them and they can pat themselves on the back. I think because they made some tiny concession already in the wake of the Spotify complaint. Now I can't remember what it was, but this is the time. We're having a developer show next week. It's perfect timing.
Yep, that's when they should do it, and they're going to announce probably a bunch of other stuff. We're less than a week. That's 20. Yeah, it's
Monday.
Monday. Yeah, so 6 days away from ARM Max or something or whatever they're going to announce. Or I think there's new Max, ARM, and
be buying like a developer account just so I can watch some of the other sessions. I'm really curious. Based on what they say in the keynote.
That's
jumping after that, but I'm really curious to see what they announce. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it really will. So we will we'll obviously bring you updates whenever that stuff drops. But you got anything else for today, Paul?
No, for whatever reason, though, it's been kind of a newsworthy day already. So there's the Huawei story, the Microsoft launcher that was probably be the launcher in the Duo is now available in beta. I haven't did that yet, the thing you mentioned. And just for Windows 10 users, if you bought my book, you know that there's like way too many recovery options in Windows 10, and they've consolidated 2 of them. So there's one fewer, but that reset your PC tool is now kind of the central place for virtually everything, assuming you get into it, which is one of the problems, of course. But they've kind of consolidated the cloud-based restore the fresh start thing that they used to have on previous versions.
And there we go. We'll catch everybody right back here tomorrow.
All right.